Welcome, everybody. Thanks for joining me today. Sorry I missed you last week. I was in Manitou Springs hiking the incline. For those of you who are not familiar with it, it's basically 2,768 steps up a very long and steep hill. So it's pretty hard. There are some areas that aren't as challenging, but there are some areas that it's steep and those steps are high. So it's a good workout if you're looking for a challenge. But I didn't miss bringing you the information for the last 2 weeks. So we're going to cover 2 weeks today in as much shorter time as possible. We'll start with mortgage applications for the past 2 weeks, both showing for purchase and refinances lower activity, not surprising because interest rates have been pretty volatile and gone up. Jobless claims, this has been really interesting because over the past several weeks, there have been no changes in the numbers at all, which is very unusual. 2 weeks ago, again, no change for initial or continuing claims. But finally, this past week, finally seeing a little bit of activity, which kind of corresponds to what we've been hearing in the news with layoffs and so forth. Initial claims up 22,000 and continuing claims up 17,000. So finally, after about 6 weeks of no changes, we've got some change. So, and that should be expected week over week to see some change. So just interesting that we're finally seeing that now. Now let's go into a couple of screens for you. We'll start with appreciation. Case-Shiller coming out for the month of February. I bring this up only because I continue to hear people thinking that home values will come down. Not the case for Denver. Maybe in some other smaller markets, yes, but not Denver. Inventory continues to be a problem. It's low. It has not reached normal levels. It's probably not going to anytime soon. And the demand exceeds what's available. Therefore, we're going to see that home prices continue to be supported. And as you can see, month over month for February, up 0.4%. So good to see appreciation for those of you who already own your homes. You are making money off of your homes, which is always good. Also, this past week was the ADP and BLS jobs reports, and these tend to be market movers. Again, we continue to see the actual reports exceeding what the expectations were, creates kind of little ruffles in the MBS markets for us, unfortunately, with that activity. But what we can see here with the ADP report to start with, a lot of the job creations coming from the larger companies, those over 500 plus, which is kind of contrary to what we're hearing with companies like Google and AT&T and so forth, doing job layoffs. So interesting to see that. And the leisure and industry hospitality department, those bring up most of the job creations at 56,000. So that has been the predominant driver of the job creations market for the past 2 years, since the pandemic, really. Also within the report, you see annual pay increases, both showing up month over month, but down from the prior month. So just an indication that that pay might be slowing a little bit. Also, this past week was BLS jobs report, again, beating expectations. But within the BLS jobs report, we do get the household survey, which gives us unemployment. And within this report, unemployment did tick up from 3.8% to 3.9%. This might be the one driver right now for the feds. If we see the unemployment continue to increase, because inflation is kind of moderating for us, not giving us a lot of help, this might be the one thing that might help encourage the Fed to start cutting the Fed's short-term interest rates, which would certainly help consumers because that would lower the monthly requirements as it's tied to credit card payments, equity lines. If you're getting car loans, that would certainly be beneficial. So unemployment ticking up, while not necessarily good, might help us with finances if it'll help encourage the feds to start dropping short-term interest rates. Also within this report, which we should note, is the average hourly earnings and weekly earnings, both down from 4.1% to 3.9%. So not as much income coming in for people, consumers. And several months now, consumer debt. Survey done showing that a lot of people relying on this buy now, pay later option. Several people were delinquent before they even started using the service, and more people considering using it for future purchases. So just wanted to show some of these details that we're getting from surveys about these buy now, pay later, and why we And really, it just brings to the forefront the fact that consumers are struggling. We may not be seeing it as much in the news, and it may not be the focus of the Fed, but maybe they need to reconsider that and pay attention to some of this information. Also, I want to show you a couple of more slides. This is consumer debt, and you can see within this report, basically consumer debt started to climb in that top chart starting in 2021, at the end of 2021. And then you can see the delinquency is starting to climb as we moved into 2022, as consumer debt on credit cards continued to decline. And what this kind of correlates to is the pandemic checks. You know, during the pandemic, people were getting the supplemental income, and they were able to save over that period of time. And then August of 2021, when those checks stopped coming, then people had to dive into those savings, into their spending. They continued to spend what they probably should not have been spending. And we saw that savings decline. And now we're in the negative now, which does, again, support the fact that people are carrying a lot of debt and putting it on credit card. So we can see the correlation between the pandemic funds and the savings as it relates to when it ended and consumer debt going up in those charts. Now, the MBS markets, we'll take a look at the markets. Today, we are down a little bit. We have made up some ground over the last week, which has been good to see. We really saw more positive gains at the end of last week, which was nice. But we have not recovered from where we were a month ago, but we're getting closer at this point. And hopefully next week, it'll be interesting to see what happens. We get the CPI report next week. But right now, finally making some ground back up. I do think this might translate to a little more activity in business applications or mortgage applications. I am seeing some strong activity, just difficult for people to kind of stomach the payments that they're getting. But again, there are programs out there to help you. And I do think people should view these loans as temporary loans. There will be an opportunity to refinance in the future, whether that's in 3 months, 6 months, or a year. Rates inevitably will come down. This is not a sustainable market at this point, particularly not in Denver. If you have any questions, please give me a call or feel free to reach out to me, DM me directly. I do appreciate your comments. If you have anything to add to the report, be happy to hear what you have to say. And thank you for liking my videos and watching. I do appreciate it. It does help me and my business. Otherwise, have a great weekend, and I will see you next week.